Hello and welcome to the Ecom Sales Tax Podcast. My name is Ryan Johnson and I've got Dan Peisner with me today. Dan, welcome back.
Thank you, Ryan. Happy to be here.
It's always good to have you on with us. Now, we'll just get right into today's topic. And what I've been told from you, really, is that notices from Texas are going out. And people who have signed up registered for the sales tax in Texas are now getting these notices about paying for franchise tax. And people are a little bit confused. And I was wondering if you could weigh in on this subject.
Certainly, Ryan. For all those out there, the Texas franchise tax is essentially the closest thing that we have to an income tax. It's not strictly an income tax, but it uses a lot of the same factors, and it's due May 15th of each year. And normally, if you have a physical presence in the state, then you're required to file the franchise tax. And once you have an account, the state sends out a reminder letter, get right around the January, February, March timeframe that lets you know you need to file it. We've had a couple of factors this year that have, I think, increased that number a little bit. And the first is the Wayfair. With Wayfair kicking in, October 2019 was when Texas implemented its economic nexus threshold, $500,000 in gross sales or more, and you needed to get a sales tax permit. So a number of companies obviously signed up for a sales tax permit. Well, it turns out Texas also tweaked their regulations on the franchise tax as well. And what they essentially did is they went back to their statutes, and for Texas franchise tax, they had what's known as a long arm statute, which basically allowed them to impose the tax on anybody for which they were permitted under the US and Texas constitutions. And as a result, they went back and said, okay, thanks to Wayfair, we now can impose the franchise tax and we should impose it. And they went in and they passed a regulation that said that we're going to do several things. Anyone that has greater than $500,000 in gross receipts now has nexus for the franchise tax, starting with the 2020 franchise tax year. And in addition, we are going to presume that anybody that has a sales tax permit has franchise tax. They were already informally doing that before, but if you sent a nexus questionnaire in and said, we don't have a physical presence, then they would drop your account. Now, that's not enough. So if you either have a physical presence, because that hasn't gone away, you have more than $500,000 in gross receipts within Texas within the year, or if you have a sales tax permit, or really a use tax permit, then the state is going to require you to file that franchise tax return. And again, that's due May 15th of every year.
I have one follow-up question.
Certainly.
Are there any penalties for not filing? You know, what happens if you don't file? If you're unsure of what to do with it, you just shrug it off. What are the penalties for that?
Well, the penalty is typically it starts with a 10% late fee, based on they'll if you don't file, then they'll estimate and they'll hit you with a late fee, and then they'll hit you usually with they could potentially impose another 10% late fee under what's known as a jeopardy determination. And then they could also, if you're registered with the Secretary of State, then they will revoke your right to do business in the state, and essentially the Secretary of State will cancel out your qualification until you get things squared with the comptroller. So that's in essence, they try to incentivize you as much as possible to get your franchise tax permit. And that can also impact other taxes. And if you have a sales tax account and you try to get a refund for some reason, then obviously before they issue that refund, they're going to make sure that you're current on your other taxes, and they will take offsets on that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I think this is very relevant information for people dealing with with their new sales tax registrations in Texas. And Dan, we hope to see you on another one.
Thank you, Ryan.